Stop making a grocery list before you leave your house. It sounds counterintuitive, but that simple piece of paper is exactly why your bank account is bleeding every single month. You are walking into a psychological trap designed by supermarkets to make you overspend on items you only think you need. There is a hidden strategy used by the world's most efficient budgeters to feed an entire family for a fraction of the usual cost. This has nothing to do with clipping coupons or sacrificing the quality of your meals. It is a total shift in how you navigate the aisles that will change your financial life forever. For decades, we have been told that a shopping list is the gold standard of organization. You sit at your kitchen table, look at a recipe, and write down every single ingredient required. This traditional approach feels responsible, but it actually forces you to pay whatever price the store demands that day. Supermarkets are masterfully engineered to exploit this specific behavior. They know that once you are in the store with a fixed list, you are a captive audience. They place high-margin items at eye level and use psychological triggers to make expensive products look like essential purchases. The economic landscape has shifted dramatically over the last few years, making these old habits even more dangerous. Inflation has turned basic staples into luxury goods, yet our shopping methods haven't evolved to match the reality of the shelf prices. You are essentially fighting a modern financial war with outdated tools. This cycle started when convenience became the primary driver of our food culture. We traded our bargaining power for the ease of getting everything in one place at any time. As a result, the average family now spends thousands of dollars more per year than they actually need to. You probably feel that familiar knot in your stomach every time you reach the checkout counter. You look at the total on the screen and wonder how a few bags of groceries could possibly cost that much. It feels like you are doing everything right, yet the numbers simply do not add up. The core of the issue lies in the needs-based mentality that governs our decisions. When you shop for what you need right now, you are buying at the peak of the price cycle. You are reacting to the store's inventory rather than making the store react to your budget. We often think we are being savvy by choosing the generic brand or looking for a small discount. In reality, these are just minor concessions in a system designed to keep you spending. The true savings are hidden in plain sight, buried beneath the layers of traditional consumer psychology. To break free from this cycle, we have to understand the mechanics of how stores actually move their inventory. Once you see the patterns behind the pricing, the entire supermarket layout starts to look different. It is time to stop being a victim of the aisles and start becoming a strategic architect of your own pantry. This architecture isn't accidental. It is a calculated blueprint refined over decades to maximize every second you spend in the store. From the scent of fresh bread at the entrance to the placement of milk at the very back, every inch is designed to trigger impulse buys. You are not just fighting high prices, you are fighting a team of behavioral scientists. For years, we have been told that a strict shopping list is the ultimate weapon against overspending. We dutifully write down what we think we need and head out to find those specific items regardless of their current price. This rigid approach forces us to pay whatever the store demands simply because that item is on our paper. Retailers count on this predictability to lure you in with a few advertised specials while hiking prices on everything else. These loss leaders are just the bait to get you through the door so you will fill your cart with high-margin products. Without a strategy to exploit this, you are essentially handing over your paycheck voluntarily. The economic landscape has shifted dramatically, making these old-school shopping habits more dangerous than ever for your budget. Inflation is not just a headline, it is a daily reality that has turned basic staples into luxury goods. Staying loyal to a specific brand or a set routine is now a recipe for financial exhaustion. Most households are currently sitting on a goldmine of ingredients that are slowly expiring in the back of their cabinets. We keep adding to the pile because we shop for specific recipes instead of shopping for the best available value. This creates a cycle of waste where we buy new groceries while the ones we already paid for go to the trash. Breaking this cycle requires more than just willpower, it requires a complete inversion of how you view the marketplace. We need to stop looking at the store as a provider of our needs and start seeing it as a warehouse of opportunities. This fundamental shift in perspective is where the real savings begin to accumulate. This shift began for me on a Tuesday afternoon when I stood at the register with $100 worth of groceries that wouldn't even last 3 days. I realized that despite following every traditional rule, I was still failing to keep my family fed without draining my savings. It was the moment I stopped looking at the price tags and started looking at the system itself. I decided to experiment by walking into the store without a single item written down, ignoring my cravings and my recipes entirely. Instead of searching for what I wanted, I looked for what the store was desperate to get rid of. I found high-quality proteins and fresh produce marked down by 70% simply because the store had overordered. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The supermarket wasn't my friend, but it was predictable. By chasing my specific list, I was ignoring the massive discounts sitting right next to the expensive items I felt obligated to buy. I was paying a premium for the convenience of my own planning. Suddenly, the entire grocery store layout felt like a puzzle waiting to be solved rather than a maze designed to trap me. I saw people all around me grabbing full-priced boxes of pasta while the clearance rack was overflowing with organic alternatives. The disconnect between what we are taught to do and what actually saves money was staggering. This was the birth of what I call the reverse shopping method, a strategy that flips the entire consumer experience on its head. Instead of starting with a meal plan and finding the ingredients, you start with the inventory and build the meals around the savings. It felt risky at first, but the math was undeniable. I had to fight the internal urge to return to my old ways of comfort and familiarity. It is terrifying to stand in an aisle without a plan, feeling the pressure of a hungry family waiting at home. But that discomfort is exactly where the breakthrough happens, forcing you to see value where others see nothing. When I got home that day, I laid everything out on the counter and calculated the cost per meal. I had managed to secure a week's worth of food for the price of a single dinner out. The traditional shopping list wasn't just a tool, it was a tax I had been paying for years without knowing it. There was no going back to the old way of doing things after seeing the sheer volume of food I could acquire for so little. I realized that the secret wasn't about working harder or finding more coupons, it was about changing the rules of the game. The conflict between my budget and the grocery store was finally over, and for the first time, I was winning. This victory was the birth of what I now call the reverse shopping method. I stopped looking at what I wanted to eat and started looking at what the store was desperate to move. By focusing on the surplus instead of my cravings, the power dynamic shifted entirely in my favor. I began to ignore the colorful center aisle displays and went straight for the clearance racks and seasonal loss leaders. I discovered that by building my meals around these deep discounts, my grocery bill dropped by 50% almost overnight. It was a radical departure from everything I had been taught about traditional meal planning. The realization hit me hard when I compared my new receipts to the mountain of debt I had previously accumulated. I had been a victim of a system that prioritized corporate profit over my family's financial well-being. This wasn't just about saving a few dollars, it was about reclaiming my freedom from a predatory retail environment. I decided right then that I would never walk into a grocery store with a pre-written list ever again. The old, passive way of shopping was dead, and a new, more aggressive strategy had taken its place. Now, I am going to show you exactly how to execute this method so you can stop being a customer and start being a strategist. Implementing this new strategy felt like a rush of adrenaline, but the first week was a chaotic mess. I walked into the store ready to conquer the aisles, only to realize I had no idea how to actually assemble a meal from random discounts. The thrill of the hunt quickly turned into a confusing puzzle of mismatched ingredients that didn't seem to belong together. My first major mistake was ignoring the foundational items that make a kitchen function. I came home with 10 pounds of discounted pork shoulder and 3 crates of seasonal berries, but I had no oil, salt, or rice to turn them into dinner. I was rich in surplus but poor in the basic elements required for a cohesive and edible meal. My family looked at the kitchen counter with a mix of confusion and genuine concern for our sanity. We had plenty of food, yet there was absolutely nothing to eat for a standard Tuesday night dinner. This friction at home made me realize that the reverse shopping method needed a bridge between the store and the stove. I also fell into the trap of chasing every single deal across the entire city. I spent 3 hours driving to 4 different supermarkets just to save an extra $5 on eggs and butter. By the time I got home, I had burned more money in gasoline and personal time than I had actually saved on my grocery bill. It became clear that I was still thinking like a consumer who was obsessed with individual prices rather than total value. I was reacting to every bright red sale sign without questioning if the item was actually a bargain. Many of these so-called deals were just clever marketing designed to move inventory that was still overpriced. I started to notice that my fridge was filling up with things we didn't even like, simply because they were cheap. Buying a gallon of industrial-sized mustard just because it is 80% off isn't a win if it sits in the back of the pantry for 3 years. I was hoarding discounts instead of strategically building a functional food supply. This stage of the process felt like a massive failure, and I almost went back to my old, comfortable shopping list. The mental fatigue of trying to calculate every move in real time was starting to outweigh the financial benefits. I needed a way to simplify the decision-making process before I burned out completely. That is when I discovered the missing link that would eventually make this system foolproof for anyone. I realized that the secret wasn't just in what I bought at the store, but in how I managed the inventory I already had at home. I had to stop treating my kitchen like a destination and start treating it like a distribution center. This transition was much harder than I anticipated because my cabinets had become a graveyard of forgotten, expensive purchases. I spent hours sorting through expired cans and half-empty bags of flour, realizing I had been completely blind to the resources I already owned. My first attempt at this inventory system resulted in a massive pile of clutter that made the kitchen feel like a chaotic construction zone. The problem escalated when I let the thrill of the bargain override my actual household needs. I was coming home with massive quantities of random items just because they were 70% off, even if they didn't fit together. I soon found myself with a surplus of odd ingredients that couldn't form a single cohesive meal, leaving my family hungry despite a seemingly full pantry. My family quickly began to push back as the kitchen table disappeared under a mountain of bulk buy bargains that no one knew how to use. They missed the predictability of our old routine and felt like we were living in a disorganized warehouse instead of a home. I had to face the harsh reality that my quest for savings was creating a new kind of domestic stress that was almost unbearable. It was during this peak of frustration that I developed a new hypothesis about how to balance extreme value with daily variety. I realized I needed a mental filter to determine which deals were actually worth the space they occupied in my cabinets. This discovery led me to search for anchor ingredients that could bridge the gap between a random discount and a delicious dinner. These anchor ingredients are the versatile staples like rice, beans, and basic spices that turn a random clearance find into a feast. I realized that without a solid foundation of these low-cost basics, even the best deal on protein is just an expensive problem waiting to happen. It was time to stop buying things just because they were cheap and start buying things that actually worked together. I began to analyze the supermarket layout with a critical eye, noticing how the most expensive items are always placed at eye level. The stores want you to focus on the convenience of pre-packaged meals while hiding the bulk staples on the bottom shelves. This is a deliberate psychological tactic designed to keep you spending more for less nutritional value. Breaking away from the middle aisles felt like leaving a comfort zone I had lived in for decades. Those colorful boxes and flashy labels are designed to trigger a dopamine response that bypasses your logical brain. I had to train myself to see past the branding and look strictly at the price per ounce and the utility of the product. When you look at the math, a standard shopping list is essentially a series of high-margin traps set by the retailer. By demanding a specific brand or a specific cut of meat, you are handing over your leverage as a consumer. The reverse shopping method forces the store to compete for your dollar based on their overstock, not your loyalty. I started investigating the truth behind the buy one get one deals that seem so lucrative on the surface. Often, these promotions are applied to items that have been marked up significantly just days before the sale began. True savings are found in the unadvertised loss leaders that the store uses to get you through the door, not the flashy end cap displays. This deep dive into retail psychology revealed that my pantry was the most underutilized asset in my entire financial life. Instead of viewing it as a storage space, I began to see it as a revolving inventory that dictates my shopping, not the other way around. If the pantry is full of anchors, the store only exists to provide the fresh variables at a deep discount. Many people argue that eating this way means sacrificing quality or health for the sake of a lower bill. However, I found that the deepest discounts often occur in the produce and butcher sections where items are nearing their sell-by dates. These are high-quality whole foods that are far superior to the processed junk found in the center of the store. I was no longer just a person trying to save a few bucks, I was becoming a strategist in a high-stakes game of economic survival. Every trip to the store became a mission to extract maximum value while leaving the high-margin traps for the uninformed. The conflict between my bank account and the corporate machine was finally shifting in my favor as I mastered the art of the surplus. This mastery required me to look past the flashy labels and understand the hidden mechanics of retail pricing. I began to see that the most expensive items were always placed at eye level to exploit my exhaustion and lack of time. By refusing to follow their predetermined path, I was essentially breaking the spell of their most effective marketing tactics. The real breakthrough came when I identified my anchor ingredients, those versatile staples that turn any random discount into a feast. I realized that a bag of rice or a box of pasta is a blank canvas that can adapt to whatever protein I find on clearance. This mental shift allowed me to stop worrying about specific recipes and start focusing on pure culinary flexibility. Critics often claim that this level of strategic shopping takes too much time, but the opposite is actually true. Once you stop hunting for 50 specific items on a list, you spend less time wandering and more time targeting the high-value zones. You become a hunter-gatherer in a concrete jungle, moving with a level of efficiency that the average shopper simply cannot comprehend. Watching my savings account grow while my pantry remained full was the ultimate validation of this aggressive new lifestyle. I wasn't just surviving the inflation crisis, I was thriving in spite of it by exploiting the very system designed to drain my wallet. The fear of the checkout counter was gone, replaced by a cold, calculated confidence that I was finally the one in control. I finally felt like I had cracked the code and reached the finish line of my financial struggle. My grocery bill had dropped by 60%, and my kitchen was a well-oiled machine of efficiency and abundance. It seemed like the battle against inflation was officially over and I had won. My friends began asking for my secret, and I proudly shared my spreadsheets and pantry photos as proof of my success. The stress that used to haunt me at the checkout line had completely vanished, replaced by a smug sense of security. I believed I had reached the ultimate peak of the reverse shopping method. But as the weeks turned into months, a strange and quiet stagnation began to settle over our dinner table. While the bank account was healthy, the excitement of our new lifestyle started to feel like a repetitive chore. We were eating well and saving money, but something vital was in danger of being lost. I realized that I had become so focused on the mechanics of the deal that I had forgotten the joy of the meal itself. We were essentially eating the same 3 variations of clearance protein plus anchor starch every single night. The victory felt hollow because our home had started to feel more like a cafeteria than a sanctuary. One evening, my youngest looked at another bowl of discounted pork and rice and simply walked away from the table. The silence in the room was deafening, and I suddenly felt like a failure despite the thousands of dollars I had saved. I had optimized the cost of our lives but completely neglected the quality of our daily experience. I almost decided to delete my spreadsheets and go back to the expensive, mindless shopping of my past just to see a smile on their faces. It felt like this entire experiment was a dead end that traded happiness for a few extra digits in a savings account. I was ready to admit defeat and accept that you simply can't have both extreme savings and a happy family. Just as I was about to throw in the towel, I stumbled upon a dusty, handwritten ledger in the back of a thrift store. It wasn't a cookbook or a budget guide, but a forgotten logbook from a Great Depression-era household. As I flipped through the yellowed pages, I saw a pattern that made my entire system look like amateur hour. I had been focusing entirely on the what and the how much, but I had completely ignored the when. This old ledger revealed a hidden seasonal cycle that the modern supermarket industry has spent billions of dollars trying to make us forget. There was one final, explosive layer to this strategy that I hadn't even considered yet. The ledger proved that our ancestors didn't just buy what was cheap, they bought when the market was naturally flooded. I finally understood that I had been fighting the tide instead of riding the massive waves of industrial overproduction. This was the moment I believed I had reached the absolute peak of my savings journey. For a short while, the system worked so perfectly that my grocery bill dropped to a level I previously thought was impossible. I felt like a tactical genius who had outsmarted a billion-dollar industry with nothing but a dusty notebook and some grit. I was ready to declare victory and walk away, convinced there was nothing left to learn. However, the illusion of total control shattered when a sudden shift in local distribution turned my inventory into a stagnant liability. I realized that my supposedly perfect strategy was still vulnerable to the unpredictable whims of the modern economy. The crushing weight of this realization made me feel like I was right back at square one, facing total failure. That is when I noticed a series of faint, encoded calculations scribbled in the very last pages of that old logbook. These numbers pointed toward a concept so radical it completely redefined my understanding of household wealth. I had found the multiplier effect, a hidden formula that transforms a simple surplus into an unbreakable shield of financial security. The multiplier effect was not about simply buying more items for less money, it was about compounding the value of every single cent spent. I realized that the true secret to the reverse shopping method lay in the strategic transformation of raw surplus into high-value assets. This was the missing link that turned a stagnant pantry into a dynamic engine of household wealth. The formula I discovered was simple yet revolutionary: volume plus preservation equals infinite leverage. By taking the massive surpluses I found at rock-bottom prices and applying basic preservation techniques, I was effectively freezing both time and price. I was no longer at the mercy of weekly price hikes because I had already locked in the lowest possible cost for months to come. This transformation immediately solved the boredom that had nearly broken my family's spirit during the experiment. Instead of staring at a pile of raw, discounted protein, I was looking at pre-marinated carnitas, savory stews, and gourmet roasts ready to be served. The multiplier effect allowed me to invest a single afternoon into creating a month's worth of high-end culinary variety. When you buy a surplus of seasonal produce at its absolute low and turn it into a concentrated base, you are doing more than saving pennies. You are creating a premium product that would cost 5 times as much on the supermarket shelf just a few months later. This is the essence of preservation arbitrage, where your small effort creates a massive return on investment that no traditional savings account can match. I began to see my kitchen as a small-scale manufacturing plant where the raw materials were sourced exclusively at liquidation prices. Every jar of preserves and every vacuum-sealed meal became a deposit into a physical bank account that paid daily dividends in health and happiness. The lingering stress of the grocery bill was replaced by the deep satisfaction of managing a self-sustaining ecosystem. The supermarket's psychological traps lost all their power because I was no longer a vulnerable or desperate buyer. I could walk past the flashy end caps and the eye-level temptations with a smile, knowing my home inventory was already superior in quality and cost. I had successfully inverted the power dynamic, becoming the primary supplier of my own needs rather than a victim of corporate margins. This shift moved my entire household from a mindset of scarcity to one of absolute, calculated abundance. I realized that true financial security isn't just about the balance in your checking account, it's about having your basic needs secured against any economic storm. The multiplier effect turned my humble kitchen into a fortress that inflation simply could not penetrate. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place when I saw my family's faces light up at a gourmet meal that cost less than a cup of coffee. We were no longer just surviving on scraps or clearance items, we were feasting on the spoils of a system we had finally mastered. This was the ultimate realization of the reverse shopping method, where every dollar spent worked 10 times harder than ever before. This leverage isn't just about food, it's about reclaiming your time and your freedom from the grocery store's grip. By combining seasonal overstock with our anchor staples, we created a cycle of perpetual savings that feeds itself. You stop being a victim of rising prices and start being the architect of your own household economy. Now, when I walk into a supermarket, I don't see a list of chores, I see a landscape of opportunities waiting to be harvested. I bypass the marketing traps and head straight for the high-value surplus that others ignore. This strategic movement allows us to stock up for months while spending less than most people spend in a single week. The real victory was proving that extreme frugality doesn't have to mean a life of deprivation or bland meals. We are now eating better than we ever did when we were spending 3 times as much on processed convenience. The variety comes from the unpredictability of the deals, turning every dinner into a creative celebration of our financial independence. You have the power to break the cycle of inflation and take back control of your family's future right now. The reverse shopping method is more than just a hack, it's a total shift in how you value your resources and your potential. Start looking at the shelves differently today, and watch as your kitchen transforms into an unbreakable fortress of abundance. Looking back, the transformation of my family's life is about much more than just the numbers on a grocery receipt. We have reclaimed hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars that used to vanish into the pockets of corporate retailers. This method didn't just save our budget, it restored our peace of mind and redefined what it means to live a life of true abundance. The lessons learned in the aisles of the supermarket have now started to influence every other area of our household management. We approach every single purchase with the same strategic lens, looking for leverage and value where others see only convenience. This mindset shift is the real legacy of the reverse shopping method, turning us into the conscious masters of our own financial destiny. You do not need a massive pantry or a huge starting budget to begin seeing these revolutionary results in your own home today. Every small win at the checkout counter builds the momentum you need to eventually break free from the cycle of economic stress. Take that first step right now and watch how quickly your perspective on wealth and food begins to change for the better. But as our kitchen became an unbreakable fortress of savings, I realized that food is only one piece of the household survival puzzle. The same principles of surplus and leverage can be applied to something even more critical to your long-term independence. Next, I am going to show you how we applied this same logic to slash our energy costs and achieve total utility freedom.